So this should now be working after a couple of our last few calls. We weren't able to do the live, but we're here now.
We're live, right? Yep.
Yes, we are.
Perfect.
So Nick, now that you're back after your beautiful vacation, we're all set to do this little share on market stats for August. And I know that Nick, you can go ahead and share the screen. It's continuing good news for sellers. But I know you're going to share some encouraging notes for buyers as well. So, monthly market update brought to you by Team Rajpal.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with basically unit sales, average sales price, and monthly of supply. As you can see here, basically from July to basically July 2021 to August 2021, there has been a slight decrease in sales, a number of sales, but a more dramatic decrease from last August versus this August. The reason though,
yeah,
I think the reason though is because last year, because of COVID too, the spring market has slowed down dramatically and pushed a lot of sales to August. But as you can see right now, it has decreased, which ideally, honestly, in a normal summer market, it's usually slow.
And especially so August and December are traditionally the slowest markets. So even at 8,596 unit sales, I think we're still higher than the norm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then average sale price, as you can see right here in July versus August of 2021, there has been a slight increase of just over $8,000. But you have seen a dramatic increase of just slightly under over $100,000 from last August to this August, so which is a 12% increase, 12.6% increase.
Yes, and then months of supply, we're looking at really, really tight months of supply, which is continuing to drive that price up. And just to note, like I want to make a comment because it's the topic of elections is the whole thing around housing, and a lot of that is coming back to real estate agents and how we're probably pushing those price points up and we're causing the lack of supply. And I wish we had that kind of control, but the reality is that with the residential market, the home supply is the home supply. And for sellers that are choosing not to get into the market, it may not be the right time for them. They don't have a need to sell. So being able to impact that supply is really not in the realtor's hands. The supply that is actually causing the issue is large scale builders not being able to build more than 100 units at a time, where things changed drastically after the 80s. And so it's really the municipal, provincial governments, the federal government that really needs to come together to help push the supply further. Because if anything, and even in the expert market insights, Nick, in there, we're going to see much more immigration. And we've got, it's at the government levels, all levels of government, that the push for more housing needs to happen. So that's just my comment there on the months of supply.
Yeah, so we can always move on to the next slide, which is the total new listings and property days on market. So in a year over year, basically last year and last August and this August, we see a 43% decrease in total number of listings. And days on the market, we're going to see a 12% decrease. So technically that's a few days, but it's a positive note for sellers. So we are having, it's taking less time to sell homes. But also just because there's also less listings as well. There's a correlation there as well.
There is, and the 43% is significant But definitely goes back to your point of all the pent up demand from that March, April, May really pushed forward into the summer months last year. And so that's what we're seeing at the 18,599 new listings that hit the market last year, which is absolutely unprecedented. But putting it into perspective, it absolutely makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So monthly statistics, we're going to see average sale price as you see here. 2021 is the highest on top,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically based on what we showed you on the bar graph, is pretty normal based on the stats. As you can see on the sides here, we even have 2019 monthly statistics. And back to where we showed that August in 2019 was only 7,681, and 2021 is actually 8,596. So as Geeta said, there was even though we did hit a lower, back to more a healthy, let's say, summer market, it is still significantly higher than 2019's.
Yes. And I think a really good point to make here, because right now it looks like, okay, if you're looking just at a year, you go to any year, there will always be peaks and valleys in the real estate market. And what we always say to our clients, whether you're, especially when you're buyers, what we will say to them is, if your intention is to be in your home for the next 5, 6, 7 years, then don't worry too much about, a little bit of the dip and the highs over a year. Because if you take the example of 2017, the 2017 market, I think that's the one that you see the most,
The pink.
Yeah, that peak there and going down there. Now, somebody that bought in March 2017, and now they're having a conversation with us at, November, or even when that biggest dip was August of 2017, they're like, oh my God, my value's gone down so much. But if they're not looking to sell for the foreseeable future, look at where they're at as compared to the future years. Now sitting in 2021, it doesn't matter where you're at in that graph, in that line, you're ahead of the game. So it's just a way of thinking about it. Don't look at the ups and downs in real estate in the short term. Always look at it in medium or longer term. Which is why, when you're flipping homes, that's where you need to be careful.
Yeah, so I was going to say it really depends on everyone's scenario. What Guido was saying more in terms of you looking to live in there versus an investment point of view. But yeah, like definitely I would say look into, you always have to ask yourself, is this a 1 to 2 year home? Is this a 3 to 5 year home? Is this a 5 to 10 year home or 10 plus home? And then from then on, we can make a more proper judgment of when you should be looking, what you should be buying. But of course, consult with your realtor, and then they'll give you a proper guidance in terms of what to do. So let's move on to the next one. So this is more of a projection. As you can see here, this is the historical compound from the 1973s to all the way to 2000s. They did do a skip here. And then the projection of, let's say, in terms of 5% annual growth, which is the red line right here, and a 3% for annual growth, which is that green line right there.
And basically showing that we've had a historical growth rate at 6.74%. So even at lower growth rates, look at the trajectory of the growth and those lines where they're going to take us into 2054.
Yeah, so the next 35 years. So that being said, that back to what Geeta's saying wise, depending on how long you're planning to keep. Of course, there's always going to be some bumpy up and downs throughout the years. It's just you have to make sure you'll be able to hold up long enough for it to come back. And during that time, if you need to sell or not.
Yeah. And it's always looking at the midterm and the longer term. Real estate historically has always gone up. So that's not news for anybody. And then it's just, again, that timeline.
Yeah, so this is basically just our statistics for live calls. saying that our brokerage is open 24/7, and while other brokers are closed, we still actually answer calls like 1,200 over 1,200 calls during that time in August.
Yeah. Which I
So
think is it's pretty important because you know, I know from personal experience, I'm sure you do, where we're trying to get through to brokerages and it's answering machines, sometimes not live people answering the phones. And it can be frustrating because when you're trying to do a great job for your clients, you want to know that there's somebody at the other end that is actually paying attention and responding. So that is something that is a definite plus. Nick, I think I believe we're at the end of this slide, but I think oh wait, Nick is going to do our social media plug. But before that, I wanted to ask you because Nick, you're obviously a lot younger than I am. You were a first time buyer not too long ago. While all these numbers are very encouraging and exciting for homeowners, there is a little bit of that sense of discouragement when you're a first time buyer, you're younger, and you're like, okay, this seems to be getting more and more out of reach. And I think when you first started that conversation a few years ago about wanting to own a home, like what can you share with potential first time buyers that you know is encouraging for them?
yeah, so everyone's financial situation always different, but generalizing it, um, I mean, like how I started. So I basically purchased my first home. Like I'm 27. I purchased or just turned 28, and I just purchased my first home earlier this year. But that wasn't actually my first purchase. I purchased a pre-construction 2 years ago, as well. But being that it's still building and I moved into this one, this is technically my first buyer, like my first home that I own. But I would say that yes, as you can see, it's kind of scary how the market, the prices are going higher and higher each time. At one point, I would say what pushed me to buying was, I would say, pre-construction, because to start off with, especially if you have trouble with, let's say, the down payments, pre-construction offer a more easier down payment, and you don't have to worry about as much in terms of a mortgage for some builders at this point. But it gives you basically a head start. Um, that being said, if that's not one way to go, consult with a realtor, and then we can always help you to see which is a better path. Now, I would say how I look at it for first time home buying, it's hard to say because everyone's different, but I would say like at least know where you're at financially, at least know what you can purchase at that specific time. If it's not something you're aligned with, then at least you know where you're at, and then you can maybe get some more advice to build up to something you're looking for.
Well,
Or
and
I've
sorry, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
oh no, sorry, or I've had like the situation when you can buy something smaller and work your way up to something bigger, because it's smarter to buy real estate and wait versus to wait and buy real estate.
100%. And I think as well that it wasn't like you just got up one day and said, oh, you know what, I'm going to buy something, and you went out and you bought it. I mean, you did have to build up towards that.
Mhm.
And I think that having the conversation, even if it seems like it's something that's not going to happen for 5 years, it doesn't matter, because you should have that conversation today about what are the options, about where can I get those down payments. The interest rates are low, and the key piece is going to be, what can I qualify for, how can I get a down payment together. And so, whether it takes 2, 3, 4 years, maybe you're not able to do it right away, but speaking with consultants like ourselves, at least in today's date, will kind of set that path for you so that you know that you can work towards something. And there are options. So no matter where you're at, give us a call, and we're happy to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, so as you can see here, follow us on social media for our market updates and events, just like this one right here. So our Facebook page is right there. and our Instagram right here at Team Rajpal, LinkedIn, and we have a TikTok channel as well, which our star here, Gita, is the star on that channel.
So I know that the team laughs at me, and so that's okay, Nick. You can laugh at me about that, but I do want to say that the followers have grown to almost 400. We're almost at 400. We started at 0, obviously, and I think that there's something to be said about TikTok and the future of real estate. And I've got our future buyers and sellers that are watching us on TikTok. So please, do you still say follow us on TikTok? Is that okay? So
I'm millennial. I'm not Gen X, so I think so as well.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people on TikTok now. It's no longer just a 10-year-old gig. So, but thank you for adding that to our slide, and we will see everybody next time.
Bye.